Hello and welcome to Speedcubing 101, Episode 2. This is Cube Mom, coming to you from my AirBnB in Nanaimo, British Columbia. Hopefully the audio quality will be tolerable for you. Today's episode is called, How Do I Solve a Rubik's Cube? I'm going to give you 5 resources that can help you for solving a Rubik's Cube. I want to highlight here, especially because future episodes will lean a little more heavily on cubing competitions. My cuber has lots of friends who are into cubing, but they don't want to compete. For example, we helped host a cubing meetup last month, and one of my cuber's friends wanted to come, and his mom asked me, is it okay? He doesn't even have a cube. And of course it was okay. One of my cuber's best buddies at school also is into cubing, as in he has a cube collection happening. He has a bracelet on his wrist that says Rubik's. He even came to my cuber's first competition to watch and cheer him on. He brought a sign to hold up when my cuber was cubing. But this buddy at school is not really interested in solving. Of course, it helps when you have a buddy at school that you can always give your cube to solve. And I sent the resources I'm giving you today to this best buddy's mom. And she was even like, yeah, thanks, but I don't know if he's going to look at these. So if you're listening to this and you want to learn how to solve a cube, or you have a cuber who wants to solve a cube, but isn't interested in competing, it's normal. It's fine. So here are ways to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube. 1, there are websites, and I'm not talking about YouTube, websites like cubeskills.com. This operates like a course. You can create a free account. There is a premium option, but you do not need that to be able to access the tutorials on how to solve a cube. There are other websites, but that is the one my cuber used. If you or your cuber use YouTube, there are tutorials on channels like JPerm, Cubehead, Tingman, a little 604 Pride. That's the area code for Vancouver. JPerm, I've been told, is from the area. Sometimes my cuber says to me, what if we see him on the street? Can I go up to him and say hi? So I guess one day if we see JPerm, whose actual name is Dylan, son, what's JPerm's last name again? Wang. My cuber just told me, just think of it as Yi Hang Wang. Got it. Another way to remember. Anyways, I guess I will report to you if ever my cuber sees Dylan on the street sometime in Vancouver. Okay, so first, you can look at websites that are not YouTube, but more like courses. And I give you that one because some parents don't allow their kid on YouTube. There's also YouTube. That's my second suggestion. 3, there are apps that can help you. And one that my cuber used before he learned how to solve is called A Solver. It's kind of like the Lego app where you take a picture of your batch of Lego and then it'll tell you what you can make out of it. You take a picture of your Rubik's Cube in A Solver and it will take you step by step how to solve it. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but that's not really learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube. But for the time my cuber was just really frustrated and trying to get familiar with the algorithms, this helped a lot. We don't use it anymore, but this is Speedcubing 101, and it's my suggestion number 3 for how to solve a cube. Number 4 is Meetups. If you head over to a meetup in your area, you can get tips and suggestions or just simply watch and see how others solve. I know some of you parents might be thinking, well, where do I find out about a meetup? In the Vancouver area, we use our Facebook Rubik's Cube Solvers Vancouver group. It's basically a Facebook group for people who are interested in cubing. If you're just across the border from us, you can join the Facebook group Pacific Northwest Cubing. There are other groups in America like Southeast Cubing. So if you are on Facebook, that could work for you. I know not everyone is on Facebook. If that's you, asking a friend or family member who is on Facebook for the contact info of organizers of meetups, you can see if there's like a WhatsApp group that you can make. I kind of did that in reverse at the meetup last month. There were a number of parents who were planning on attending the BC Championships that's happening this weekend. So I asked them individually if they wanted to join a WhatsApp group. So now we have a WhatsApp group. And yesterday Some of us were sharing which ferry we were on to see if we were on the same ferry. Meetups can be tricky. I was in Ontario earlier this summer and I was chatting with a mom named Kate who lives in Hamilton, and she said her cuber would love to have regular meetups with other cubers, and she was open to organizing them. So we were brainstorming like libraries, community centers. Anyways, all that to say, meetups are a resource for learning how to solve a Rubik's Cube. So what have I suggested so far? First, websites like Cube Skills, YouTube channels like JPerms, apps like ASolver. But if you don't want to be online so much, meetups. And number 5 is competitions. You don't have to be competing to attend a competition. Again, I'll have a lot more to say about competitions in future episodes. I know walking into one can seem and feel intimidating. It is not a wedding. There are not assigned seats. There will be people who will give some of their time to show your cuber how to solve a Rubik's Cube. And I know this because my own cuber has experienced this many times and is now one of the cubers helping other cubers learn. All right, so I hope that gets you started with how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Again, my suggestions are, and these first 3 I literally gave to a new friend 2 days ago. I will post my text messages to her. By the way, hi Tia. I just met her a month ago at a Kidpreneur event, and she texted me to say her youngest is now interested in cubing. I gave her those first 3 suggestions that I just gave you. I'm also going to post them on my brand new Instagram account. So new, I have no followers, nothing. But I'll post them there so anyone who's interested can see. Oh, my Instagram account is Cube Mom Official. That's Cube Mom Official. I'm actually also going to post something. This happened this morning before we left. I'm in a Buy Nothing Facebook group for my neighborhood, and someone posted that their 7-year-old got a dog Rubik's Cube keychain and cannot solve it. She's looking for somebody who could help out. There were a couple of adults who said they were willing, and I said my cuber, who's 8, would be willing, but not until next week. And she specifically told the others, I can't remember exactly. I'll post it on the Instagram. So Cube Mom Official. Now this podcast is a beginner's guide for parents of new cubers, and there are times where I want to highlight specific dynamics that parents face. So I hopefully briefly want to touch on where and when your cuber cubes. As I mentioned in episode 1, when my cuber started getting into this, I noticed a change to the breakfast routine. He was so absorbed in cubing that, oh yeah, getting ready was so not a priority. So there was a time when he could only cube after school, after his homework and other responsibilities were done. And that included showering, getting ready for bed. Like, I wanted everything done before you touch a cube. After a while, I was able to relax on that because things were more balanced. But then he started getting other cubes like the 2x2 and the Pyraminx. And it started getting too much again. So we kept them all in this big padded box that we have. And he would have to ask permission to get them. And then when he was done, he'd have to return them back to this box. Again, we were able to relax that more, and he wasn't so intense about it. But there was also a time when he could only cube downstairs because of the sound. And you know what I mean. I'm not going to do it for you. You know that sound. It was starting to irritate everyone in the family. So now he is allowed to cube upstairs, but he knows that there may be times where we ask him to go downstairs or to stop. So as your cuber learns how to cube, maybe gets more than one kind of puzzle, you may have to visit and revisit different guidelines for cubing at home.
It's 201 talk time.
Yes, so in each episode of Speedcubing 101, I want to give a little bit of info about Speedcubing 201, just to give you a heads up what's ahead. So a couple of things. There are different methods for solving the Rubik's Cube, and there are different levels within the methods. Most people start with learning the beginner's method. Great name, isn't it? So for Speedcubing 201, learning more advanced methods like the RU method, ZZ, CFOP, and CFOP stands for cross, F2L, OLL, and PLL. So just be aware that as your cuber progresses, there are new methods of solving to learn. A little bit of history, at least in the Vancouver area. I've had a few chats with Thomas, who is an OG cuber in Vancouver, and he was sharing that about 15 years ago when he was learning the RU method, you didn't have all these websites and YouTube channels. He had a question about the RU method and had to track down the contact info for the creator of the RU method and reach out. I don't know if it was maybe email at the time, to be able to ask the question, to be able to master the RU method. So here we are in 2024, and it is easier to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube than back in 2009. Thomas has shared something that I can share here later in this episode, but we're moving on because
it's time to catch up on your cube news.
In each episode of Speedcubing 101, I want to have a cube news segment. And as I was thinking about how to approach this, I was wrestling with a few ideas, and I came to the decision that most of what I'm going to share will be related to Speedcubing Canada. In other words, cubing related to what's happening in Canada, and Pacific Northwest cubing. And the reason for that is because they've become our second home for competitions. What helped me make this decision was actually being in Washington State and chatting with Kaylin, the delegate who is helping me to learn a few things on how to organize and run a competition. Hello, Kaylin and Amanda. They are like a 1-2 punch for getting things done and organized. But Kaylin and I were talking, and she was sharing how in Australia, there was a competition where I think she said 200 of the competitors were new. So there was basically a rolling competitor tutorial all day long. I was just thinking, wow, that's neat. It's neat to hear what's happening in Australia. So this is kind of going to become, at least in this Cube News section, what's happening in the Pacific Northwest and across Canada. So this is the part where if you're not at the Cubing 101 level, but you enjoy hearing what's happening in the world of cubing, where I am, then you can tune in. You can skip through the other parts too if you want. My Cube news for this week is that Ontario just held their first provincial championships last weekend. Congratulations to all the competitors, and shout out to all the delegates, organizers, parents, family members, everyone involved in making the competition, which was the first provincial championship, a success. I feel like I should announce the podium for the marquee event, the 3x3. In third at the Ontario 2024 Championship is Brennan Lynn. Second place, Berno Lichak Kwan, and first, Morgan Ye. My cubers actually met Brennan and Morgan and taken pictures with them. Brennan was so nice. I did the thing that I tell my kids not to do. We have a rule. If mama is typing, whether it be typing a text message or typing on my keyboard, you wait and not interrupt until ask me when I'm done. And Brennan was typing on his phone when I interrupted him and said, "Oh, could you take a picture with my cuber?" So thank you, Brennan, for being very nice about it as I interrupted you. And Morgan was also very gracious with signing a picture that we got developed when my cuber took a picture with Morgan at the Canadian Championships last year. Thank you again, Morgan. And Berno, my cuber hasn't met him, but I remember distinctly at the Canadian Championships when he was being introduced in the finals of the 3x3, he got a really loud cheer. So that told me, oh, he's very popular among his peers. Anyhow, congratulations to everyone. By the way, if you are in the Toronto area, you're in what I consider to be the strongest area of Canada when it comes to infrastructure for cubing competitions and supply of cubes. I can go into that more in a future episode. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I'm recording this from Nanaimo, BC, on Vancouver Island, and that's because tomorrow the BC Championship starts. This is the first ever BC Championships. I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty new to the world of cubing, and I feel like cubing here is in its humble beginnings, but Thomas, who I mentioned earlier, sent me a global news segment from 2010 that showcased the Vancouver Open that was held at Science World. I will put the link to that video in the show notes of this episode. On the heels of the first BC Championships, this video will kind of give you the faces and community and video quality from back then. Side note, you can also keep an eye out for a Rubik's Cube tattoo on Thomas's calf. That is highlighted in the video as well. Okay, I'm going to be editing this video down after I'm done because I'm almost hitting an hour, but that's not the version you're hearing. I look forward to sharing about the BC Championships in the next episode of Speedcubing 101. Thank you in advance to the delegates and organizers, Kevin, Vian, Hewan, Tanya. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow. And Orion, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and I look forward to meeting you tomorrow too. Please remember, Speedcubing 101 is a podcast that is free and available for you 24/7. You can listen to it while making dinner, folding laundry, commuting, maybe even taking a ferry. It's for you, and it is free. If you have any questions, suggestions, or corrections, you can email me at cubemomofficial@gmail.com. I have to get used to saying that. cubemomofficial@gmail.com. Thomas's video is in the show notes of this episode. My new Instagram is in the show notes, so head over there to continue with the episode. And of course, I'll also link to the resources I shared as well. Thank you for listening today, and happy cubing.